All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome all my ghouls and ghoulettes to a very special episode of Into the Comiverse. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right into it. We got some special guests tonight talking about the Hell-O-Ween Kickstarter. First, I'm going to introduce Miss Lucy, the mistress from the Dark Deep. How you doing, Lucy?
Hello. I'm good tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looking fabulous as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Just got in from the graveyard,
Next up, we have the writer and creator of Hell-O-Ween and some other comics as well. From his, I know he showed, what was it, The Undead and some other stuff. We have Mr. Joe Janowitz. Is that how I'm pronouncing it right?
That's close enough. Exactly perfect. Hi. Yes, I am the spooky creator of the Hell-O-Ween comic. Okay? It's from my nightmare mind. Okay.
And then we got two special guests, two other surprise guests, artists. We have Mr. Rick Arthur. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you for the introduction. I've graduated the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon Graphic Art.
Awesome.
And I've been working on comics here and there for a long time. I'm primarily known for working on something called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So people have heard of that. But I like to work in horror genre and science fiction. And Joe had a very interesting project. And so I'm involved in a chapter of that.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting into this. We got one more artist, Mr. Joe Orsak. Is that correct, right?
Yeah, Orsak, yes. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And this is our panel tonight, y'all. We're going to be talking about the Hell-O-Ween Kickstarter that all of y'all are creating. Looking forward to reading it. I'm a big horror guy. Grew up watching horror from the Universal monster movies to all the slasher flicks of the 80s and beyond. So I'm looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say.
Well, certainly we're looking forward also. I've got a little reverberation. Don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay?
A little bit.
All right.
You're actually on here twice.
Okay, so here we go.
That's his clone. That's his clone. Don't worry.
Okay.
This is the title of the book, Hell-O-Ween. This is the reveal, of the character, Lucy, who is sitting in the chair there in the studio.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So we just froze for a moment. This is interesting. Okay. Lucy is Lucy. Okay. She is the mistress of dark. Okay. Basically, the story follows a night on Halloween where a group of kids go out all night long trick-or-treating, and the four kids, the two older teenagers and the young kids, basically run into costume monsters who are real. And that's the whole book to the book. Okay. You just don't know what's going to happen on Halloween night, and no one expects this to happen. So to tell the story correctly, I hired four of the top artists who I felt could really challenge themselves with their creative artwork. Rick Arthur does the sequence where the kids go to the zoo to do a little trick-or-treating because it's a zoo fest and they've got free candy. And there just happens to be a werewolf in wolf's clothing at the zoo who has a lot of fun with, shall I say, some of the people attending. Joe Orsak over here, he does a segment which is basically important to opening and closing the story, different chapters. He is the one that starts the book out where the kids are being told by their parents, be careful, blah, blah, blah. The older teenage kids don't really want to know anything, but they got to escort the young kids. And then once they get out into the street, the older kids say, "You're on your own. We'll see you in about 2 hours. We're going off to a Halloween party ourselves," which turns out to be at a college campus filled with vampires who are having their own Halloween festival. Stephanie, oh, I'm sorry, Lucy, okay, uh, who's plays Stephanie is a great artist in her own right. Um, we can talk more about that in a minute, but Stephanie has created the character of Lucy, who is sort of our Vampirella, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, who introduces and closes each segment. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you right here. This is one of the pieces of art. This was drawn by Keith Williams, who does our cover. And this is one of the sequences where Lucy, after a chapter, tells a little bit about what happens and does it in sort of a humorous way. So it's good. There you are with your bag, Lucy. Yes, you collect everybody's heads and arms and fingers and things. So all of the artists, Dick has done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I met him at a comic show a little over a year ago, and we shared some conversation. I said, "Wow, I bet you'd be great for the werewolf sequence," and he really loved it. He wanted to do that. And then Joe, I've known for several years, and I've seen his artwork. He does amazing, lifelike caricatures of people. He worked on a series of sporting books. Joe, you can talk about that. And when we asked him to come on board, I was very, very pleased with that. Nigel Carrington, who's not with us tonight, he's an artist from Trinidad. Matter of fact, this is the picture of Nigel, myself, for a magazine cover. We were in a graveyard. We were promoting a book that I drew. He drew. I'm sorry, I wrote. Black Man, White Man, which we can talk about. Nigel does the sequence in the college campus situation. Ken Wheaton, who has drawn Popeye comics and has now done some
And The Simpsons
comics. He's the art director of the book. And we also have Rob Dumo, who out of Buffalo, who has done a lot of books, that have basically been independent comics that have been very well recognized in the market. This is one of his pieces of artwork. This is for the wit sequence, and this is what's called a blue line as we're preparing the actual art.
That is beautiful.
Joe, I'm going to show you this. This is his variant cover.
I love that cover.
Lucy meeting the kids at the door. And
I love that
each
cover.
of the artists were given not only the chapter to draw, but were given the opportunity to create their own variant cover, which they can then use, promote as they go to comic shows, conventions, and other things wherever they are through their websites. So it's a real win-win for me, and I think for everybody involved. We're all having fun. Everybody owns a piece of the project with, their own style, with their own covers, and hopefully their own promotion, which will make people look at some of their projects too. And Stephanie has a special photo variant cover. There's two versions. One is the Lucy version of her in a graveyard, and that's the what I would call the nice one. And then there's the naughty one where Stephanie has some, a little bit of blood and a little bit of whatever. It's a great cover. So these are all going to be available, and that's also going to be part of our Kickstarter promotion I want to talk about in a minute. But why don't you ask some of the other guys a little bit about their, artwork, and then we'll get right back to it, Tony.
All right. So, Joe, Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, which one of y'all want to go first?
Well, I guess I can start. I am known for doing a comic strip in the Syracuse newspapers called The Adventures of Captain Cuse, which I started in February of 1982, and it ran until July of 1990. So it was a weekly strip. It started in a independent weekly newspaper, and after 90 weeks I graduated over to the major Sunday newspaper, and I had my comic strip featured in the Sunday News magazine. So that was a lot of fun. The last 2 years of the strip were done in full color, so I had a blast doing it. I ended up leaving that strip to work on Magnum Comics, doing sports biographies of Mickey Mantle, Brooks Robinson, Duke Snyder. And then I've done another comic strip called Salt City, which also appeared in the Syracuse New Times, the original newspaper that did Captain Cuse. And then that led to doing a couple of graphic novels for McFarlane and Company down in North Carolina. And my second graphic novel is called Virgin Vampires, which is my homage to Hammer horror movies. So I tried very hard to make it look like a Hammer flick.
And I love the Hammer flicks. I think they don't get the love they should be getting.
They should.
I am wearing the official Hammer Dracula ring.
There we go.
But I actually got this from the Christopher Lee fan club. Okay, see, there's my authentic, and there's blood at the very bottom. It should be somewhere. It says Hammer, whatever. There's the blood. Okay. That's why I like Joe's artwork. I saw his vampire book, and I said, wow, this will be perfect for what I'm doing. And that's why we had the conversation. And, having talked previously on other things, I've just been waiting for the right time. So, Joe, I'm so pleased at what you were doing. And the pinup of Lucy, do you have it again? Can you show it real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is my pinup page for Lucy.
Ooh. Yes. And matter of fact, it's also going to be available as one of our Kickstarter sponsorship packages. We're going to do some signed artwork from each of the artists. We're going to do some signed sketches. We're going to do all sorts of real cool stuff we'll talk about in a few minutes. But let's hear about the werewolf guy. All right.
I take it that's Rick.
I guess I get to be the werewolf guy. I ran into Joe last year. I hadn't really met him before. And he's a horror writer and was talking about, like, hey, would you be interested in we like your work. We'd be interested in doing a couple things. And it involves vampires and zombies. I like zombies. But he's like, werewolf. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. We'll do that werewolf segment. I don't care what it's about. Because that to me was probably the most fun one to work on. When I was a really little kid, our family used to go out to the state fair in Minnesota, and I come from a big family, so I had a couple of older brother and some older sisters, some younger brothers, some younger sisters, and we all went into a fun house. It's dark. You look at mirrors for a minute. You round a corner, and this guy jumps out, and he's dressed in werewolf gear. Jumps out from behind a curtain and scares everybody. Half of my brothers and sisters ran forward, half ran back, and I was standing there with the werewolf for about 5 minutes, and he just kept snarling. And then finally he got bored, and he's like, "Okay, you can move along." And I think I was, I don't know, I must have been like 5 or 6 or something, and I don't think that it was part of the regular show. I think it was one of the guys at the space just like goofing around, because I don't think it was part of the thing. But my mom is waiting at the front of the place, and all of a sudden a bunch of the kids come piling out, and a bunch of the other kids come piling out, and I didn't come out. But that's probably one of my first werewolf experiences. And then I always liked the Lon Chaney Jr. Werewolf stuff, and I would watch that over and over again. The old black and white films, all the Bela Lugosi stuff is just really fantastic. The Hammer films, Christopher Lee, just anything like that. And I'm not even the big horror person in the house. Like I really lean a little bit more towards science fiction, but my brother is definitely like the horror person. He knows all the names, and he knows all the directors, and he knows he can tell you all the who was the gaffer on like what movie. It's kind of insane. Wow. But when I had a chance to work on the werewolf segment, I was like, yeah, that's the one I want to do. Let me just show this again. I'll see if we can get a shot of this that's any good.
Ooh, that is beautiful.
That's nice.
Oh, it's great.
Looking good.
I'll just keep zooming in until somebody gets bit.
That's going to be one of the variant covers. And this here is one of the pages.
Nice.
That he, drew. There's the werewolf, the kids in the zoo. And I don't want to give too much more away. If you go to our Kickstarter, and there it is. There's the original mark.
Oh, wow.
It's great.
So
really great.
The deal here is for these that I actually like to work about 70-30. So by that, I mean 70% traditional and 30% digital. So all of the pages that I have done for this project are done on actual Bristol board, and mostly in brush. I never like to use a brush, but now I use brush almost exclusively. And I do traditional black and white line work, which collectors seem to really enjoy, having something physical to hold on to. And I work on that as far along as it wants to go, and then I scan it into the computer, add tones to it, in some cases color, depending on what it is. And that's how I worked on this project as well, kind of a 70-30 ratio.
Well, I got a little werewolf question for you. So when you drew your inspiration for your story, was it based on anything like, say, The Wolfman or American Werewolf in London or Howling or Silver Bullet?
So I love all of those. I'm a huge fan of American Werewolf in London. Just a bunch of crazy like college kids backpacking through Europe. Like, what could go wrong? Oh, yeah. We're not going to get lost. What could go wrong? So I kind of like that. I just drew a lot of it out of my head. So I didn't use specific werewolf reference or anything like that to go back to a film. You'll see in the comic itself, the drawings change a little bit as we go along. But I don't know if you're familiar with, there was a TV show a little bit ago. I think it was just called Wolf or Werewolf. It's on Fox.
I may not be.
So Fox had this.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was similar to the Incredible Hulk, where you had like your main character and he would change back and forth. And it also had Chuck Connors as the villain,
the rifleman,
the rifleman guy, and that ran on Fox. And so at one point they wanted to turn that into a comic series, and I was in the running to do that. I did a couple of sample pages for that, and that was the first time that I had drawn, actually sat down to like draw werewolves, to do sample pages for that. I ended up not getting the assignment, but I should have. And so this story with Joe is something where I really got to draw something fun and inject a lot of fun and scares into it. Yes. And it came out pretty nice. I think it came out
excellent. All of the guys, excellent work. And we're going to talk to Lucy in a moment. But this is a page that I'm trying to get it on the camera here. There it is. Okay. This is some of Joe Orsak's work where the, the thing begins.
The establishing
Basically, the
shot.
kids go out. But all of the segments are very, very fascinating. Love everybody's work. And the one person who scares me the most but intrigues me the most about the whole project is Lucy, the mistress of the deep dark. Okay. My character Lucy is basically she's the daughter of Lucifer, and she is given the opportunity to watch what goes on Halloween night, and she's the one who creates a little bit of hell by having the monsters come to life. Now, Lucy is a very fantastic person in her own right. I want her to talk in a moment, but we have already started having some conversations about Lucy doing some in-person signings at some conventions, in the future, if all goes well. And that's where I'm going to ask everyone in the audience to help us out. We have a Kickstarter that we are asking for sponsors to help us put this whole book together. I mean, it's going to happen, but the more that we can get support from, you fans, fanboys, fangirls, vampire, vampirettes, etc., is all the best. Lucy in the Kickstarter does a 3-minute video in a graveyard where she haunts the heck out of anybody that looks at the video and pleads for blood and money. So, Lucy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, what part of me? I just came out from the graveyard. It was fabulous, No, my name's Stephanie. I'm also known as Madam Blaster, and also a cosplayer and artist as well. So, yeah.
Very talented artist and sculptor.
Thank you.
Very talented, yes. And please, if you do go to the Kickstarter, anybody that's watching this, and we hope you all do, there's bios on everyone that is on screen, and those that are here tonight. Look at their websites. Look at the amount of creative work each one has done. And I think you'll see that by bringing this team together, we have some real unique talent. I mean, from Lucy, who, scares the daylights out of me every time I see her, okay, and to the artwork of the artist bringing it all together, and artwork that you haven't seen from Ken Wheaton, who's doing the zombies, Rob Dumo, this is a page of his work. Okay,
I'll zoom you up real quick.
Yeah. So there's just so much talent, out there. And then we also have Nigel Carrington, who does the vampire, sequence. And this is a page, of some of his artwork. Now, these are pages in progress. The finished art is all being, put together, being inked, being ready to go into production for release in October. And the Kickstarter has only another 12, 13 days to run. I'm asking any of you fans out there if you're interested to obtain some signed copies of the variant covers by the different artists, signed pages, sketches, the variant covers by, our mistress of the deep dark here, Lucy. They are amazing images that we have of her, and I believe there's going to be a lot more that's going to be coming out, such as a calendar that we plan to introduce later in the year. And there's even thoughts of if this comic works, well, Lucy may be coming back for some more scary, haunting things, and the art team may be collaborating again, getting the band back together, as they say, and doing some more fun stuff. So the Kickstarter is very simple. You just Google it or however you go on your computer, Kickstarter.com. You have to type in, once you find project search, you have to type in Hell-O-Ween. And if you just start with that, you'll go right to a picture of Lucy in cosplay. You press on that and you will see the video and then the artwork examples, the bios, a lot of fun stuff. I mean, it's just great. I mean, even if you don't want to sponsor, check it out because it might be something that you want to tell your other friends about. It's a great opportunity. And, the book will be in stores, but this is a chance to get advanced copies, advanced looks, signed copies, all sorts of stuff. And, maybe Lucy will show up in your nightmares and give you a little bit of a, shall we say,
I hope so.
Come on and join. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen a lot of the art that's on the Kickstarter page, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And my only question is, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out which tier I'm going to do.
Okay.
And before we go any further, though, I haven't acknowledged the chat, guys and gals. I've been spotlighting your comments. Cliff popped on; he was the first one. We had Chris, the comic vet. We had Rick. Hey, Rick.
I'm on there a few times.
Yeah, I see that.
I got the keyboard going.
We got KBDM. So everybody in the chat, I haven't been ignoring y'all. We got some really good stuff going on here. Now, to the panel, would y'all object to the chat asking questions?
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
So anybody in the chat, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll keep it reasonable. I have one question I want to ask, and this is a two-parter for Joe and then our artist. And it's the same question. And the part for me is for Joe. I'm in my mind, I want to be a writer. I've got 1,000 ideas in my head trying to get it into print. So how would I go about writing a comic?
It's a good question. I never wrote comic books prior to actually trying. I used to produce and direct movies for Eastman Kodak for TV. And I also wrote, some of the films, some of the commercials, some of those things. But writing a comic book is a different thing. It all starts with you, the writer, sitting down with your typewriter, with your computer, pen, paper, and just start writing. And the way to do it is you think of the comic book almost as a movie. Okay. For example, I'm going to show you this piece of art here. As you can see, there are a couple of different scenes. And I established the scenes on a piece of paper, such as interior, college campus, dorm, dormitory, or shall I say party, okay, interior party, vampires, people in vampire costumes, partying, having fun. Cut to panel 2, our teenagers enter, they greet, say hello. Panel 3. So you start breaking it down in your mind as if you're watching a movie. Now I'm going to give you a hint how I created movies years and years ago when I went to film school, went to Columbia. Well, my teacher said, watch TV with the sound on. Watch the movie and pay attention to what they're doing. You'll see long shot, close up, medium shot, cutaways, all sorts of things. And you begin to say, it's fascinating how they put it together.
Yeah.
Then you say to yourself, no, we need words. That's how I started.
Well, guys, Joe, Rick, I got the same question for y'all. If there's an aspiring artist out there, what's the first thing they could do to get their art noticed?
Joe, do you want to
Yeah, I guess first? I can handle that.
And then I'll go second.
Well, my first attempt at drawing comics was when I was in high school, and I just kept drawing all the time. My first real attempt to get something done was the Captain Q's comic strip that I started in '82. And I was like, what, 30? I was 30 years old at the time. But I wrote the strip and illustrated it, and I just kept doing it. I was fortunate to tie in with the right people. The comics editor at the newspaper was Tom Pyre, who went on to work for DC, and now he's the art director at Ahoy Comics, which is one of the places I have art currently. I have done artwork in their My Bad series most recently. So with Captain Q's, I was the writer and illustrator, and I just learned how to do it over time. And I made presentations to Marvel and DC. I met with John Romita Sr. at Marvel. I met with Saul Harrison at DC. And eventually I made some connections with Jim Shooter at Ithacon down south of Syracuse a little bit. And Jim Shooter was actually going to give me a tryout assignment. And he said, when I go back to the office, I'll send you a tryout. And so he went back to the office that Monday, and that was the day he was fired.
Oh,
so
man.
I came that close to getting into Marvel. So it was after that I started working on the sports comics for Magnum. So when one door closes, another opens. But if you love the work, if you enjoy it, keep at it, and meet people at conventions. And if you get a chance to see the right people at shows, give it a shot.
That's key. And Rick, I want you to jump in a moment. Going to conventions is key. That's where I met you guys. Okay, I'm a comic fan. I grew up on comic books. I was 67 years old. I'm pretty old. When I wrote my first comic a couple of years ago. Okay, I'm in my 70s. So you don't give up, and no age bracket matters. Okay, you just do what you want to do.
That's
when
right.
I met you guys, okay, I can't draw. I can't even draw a circle. All right. But I was so enamored by your work that I said, I want to work with you. Now, for the aspiring artists, maybe you see them as they come to your tables and you talk to them. It's always great to meet people through networking, isn't it, Rick?
So it totally is, because I hadn't met Joe before. I hadn't met Stephanie before. I hadn't met the other Joe or Ken.
Not till last weekend.
Many Joes until I'd gone to the comic show. So that's definitely a good place to meet like-minded people who are doing similar things or doing things that you want to be doing. So it's a little bit aspirational. I have a little bit different background than most people. So I've worked in all different kinds of industries, including printing, book design, digital bookmaking, pretty much everything from business cards to billboards. Did some film work as well. Was living out in Los Angeles for about 3 years. Didn't like the traffic. But I got an opportunity for about 5 years to teach comic making at a college level, where people had to actually take tests and do all that kind of stuff. And so I really had time to think about, how would you approach, hey, I want to write a comic. Hey, I want to draw a comic. How would I go about doing that? And over the years, I've had various writers approaching me who wanted to get into comics. They didn't know how. I had a very famous internationally recognized poet contact me just out of nowhere, saying, hey, I do all different types of writing, and I write stage plays and screenplays, and I'd really like to get a comic drawn. How would I go about it? And so here's somebody who's extremely professional. I had to kind of walk him through the process, and he thought it was going to be easy. And writing for comics is a lot harder than it looks. I had another guy who was a ghostwriter for a fairly famous action adventure series where the main author wrote the first 4 books in the series, and the ghostwriter pretty much wrote the next 20 or 30 books in the series. And he was a very accomplished writer, and he wanted to try comics. And so for both of those 2 guys in particular, they came from really strong writing backgrounds. And the first thing that I did with them was show them how an artist would break down their writing into usable pieces that you could use in comic format. So I'll just show real quickly what I did with Poor Joe's script. I took.
They always edit my words. Okay.
I took Joe's typewritten script, and so basically I'm thinking about it as a visual, from the visual. And a lot of times I personally will look at each scene or each page having a main visual focus, and then everything else will go around it. So I'll do something like this to Poor Joe's script, and I'll show here on the screen. I don't know if we can really see. So I've highlighted, you can't read it, but I've basically highlighted any text or any dialogue. I've put indications where I'm going to try to break action. So different scenes or actions that are going to take place. So I break down the whole script, and I realize that he's got like 25 or 26 different scenes that go into a 5-page story, which is a lot. And I take those scenes or whatever, and I start to go to the next stage, which is making little, you can't see this either.
No, I can see it. That's pretty good.
Little thumbnails. Let's see, I can't see what you're seeing. I will just.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So I will make little sketches for each scene. And a lot of times I'm just like, do not feed the animals.
And see, for somebody like me who's been collecting for 36 years and never getting to see actual original art, this is blowing my mind.
So these would be considered thumbnails, and this is the preparatory type drawings that I do before I even get started. And like in a movie or a storyboard, I'm trying to like figure out the spacing. Characters are talking, and so I want to move the camera in and out like Joe was talking about. It takes place at the zoo, so I want to tag the zoo and any any signs, billboards, signage, things like that are going to go into it. And I'll just like start using this method to very quickly like develop the scenes and develop the pages. And then from there, I'll take them, let's see, I will take them and, excuse me while I lean over here for a second. I will take them and, can I show this page? I can show this page. So I will take those thumbnails and I will put them on the computer and I will make them full size.
All right.
So let's turn it this way. So this is a scene where, well, I won't tell you what's happening, but basically, I've taken my thumbnail design and I've made it full size, worked out all the spacing, tried to leave room for dialogue and lettering where that will go. And this is the basis of the comic page. And this is really loose and fast artwork, so that if I make mistakes or I want to make changes, I just draw it again very, 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 very quickly. And then I take this, trace it onto an actual page. Let's see if I can find this page. Got all kinds of stuff here in the office. So this page is actually
That page, yes,
That
come to life.
page.
Yes.
If you guys can see
Wow.
the difference between.
Wow. Now let me jump in, Rick, and just say something to all of you aspiring.
Did I give anything away?
Fans. Yeah. Each of the artists supplied to me as the writer their vision of what it would look like, and this is part of the whole, shall I say, teamwork, which really makes it come together. I learned this from Steven Spielberg years ago when I had a chance to chat with him. It's not just being one member, it's being together with a group of people who collectively can put it together. And, you know, as we discussed certain things, Rick showed what he could do, Joe showed me what he could do, Nigel, Ken, each of the artists, but they all still followed the vision, which was really great. And when they brought in other things, or if they didn't, you know, we've discussed that. And that's really great when you can find artists like these guys who are so talented and open-minded. It just makes the project rise even higher than just someone doing a quick, well, this is what it's going to look like. And that's why I respect all of these guys, you know, greatly. And Stephanie, you know, as Lucy, I respect her greatly because she brings the character of Lucy to life, especially if you see the video on Kickstarter. It's like something out of a horror Hammer film. You know, a Hammer horror film can go either way. And that's something that I wanted, that, you know, I envisioned her in a graveyard, you know, saying, welcome and join us, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, walking through what you did, Rick, was ideal because it really shows the dedication that you guys, Joe and Rick and all the others have done to put it together. And I've got pages and pages, you know, of all of their examples that they've done and they've shared with me. And it was such a great process to watch it all come together. You know, by putting a few words on a page, by having the idea, any of you writers out there, and having a vision, finding the right people to work with, you never know what can happen. So I'm excited, you know, what we have right now. And I'm excited for everyone. I got to be the pitch man, for you to go to the Kickstarter because, you know, the funding that you give us gives us an opportunity, you know, to make this even a bigger and better project. And I really do appreciate it if you could check it out. Again, when you go to Kickstarter, you got to write HELL-O-Ween. Now, you might say, why isn't it just one word? Well, I'm going to let the vampire out of the coffin. There is a band in Germany called Hell-O-Ween. And
yeah, it's an 80s thrash band.
Yeah, and it's a very fascinating band. I've seen their videos, and they're really great. So, you know, we don't want to infringe on anybody's trademark, but it is a night, and we, you know, changed the wording around a little bit, you know, hell with the pumpkin, and then ween, you just consider it Halloween. And, you know, I got to tell you, when you look at it on the Kickstarter, you'll see Rick's artwork, you'll see Joe's artwork, you'll see Nigel, Rob Dumo, Ken Wheaton's artwork, and you'll see Rick, you know, Keith Williams' artwork. I mean, it's all brilliant stuff. And, you know, this is an opportunity, you know, Tony, for yourself, you know, if you can put a few dollars into it, and some of the sponsorships begin at $5, you get a PDF, $10, you get a signed copy, $25, you get a sketch, $50, you get a couple of different covers all signed, and it goes on and on and on. And, you know, Lucy is the crypt keeper here. You know, she's going to be, you know, circling around, you know, keeping an eye on all you fans out there. And what are you drinking? Some blood, or is that wine? But anyways,
that's blood. That's blood for sure.
Good. And you know, Lucy is going to keep an eye on all of you out there. So it's important that you help us out. I mean, that's the whole pitch here tonight, is to get as many people on board to help us, because each of the artists and the creators of the book all are going to share, you know, in the sponsorship. I'm just trying to make it the best thing possible. And I also want another quick pitch. And, you know, when you said, how do you write a comic book? After I wrote my first comic book, Black on White Man, which with Nigel Carrington, who's one of the artists in this book, I said, let me see if I can write a novel. I have since written several novels, and this is Ghost, and this is the one Lucy, you're reading this now, aren't you? The Naked Dead.
The Naked Dead.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know that I am. This one right here. This one.
Yes. Okay. See the vampire girl on here.
This one.
Now.
What about this one right here?
Oh my God, Ghost! You got that. The interesting
my copy must be lost in the mail, Joe.
Yeah, it's lost in the mail. Okay, well, dressed like Lucy, you'll get 2 copies. The interesting thing about writing, and I think Ken and Joe can tell you very, much more, is that as the artists, we're sharing a panel. They're sharing their artwork with my words, and I can't have too many words because then it just clutters the panel. If you look back at some of the old books years ago, the artwork was real small and the balloons with the words are real big. So I try to condense the dialogue to make it as real as possible and give as much room for the artist to be as creative as possible. But when I write a novel, and you can check them out, also, when you read my bio, I got all the room I want. I got all the pages to write. But that's a whole different medium. I'm a big horror fan, whether I write a horror novel, The Naked Dead about vampires or ghosts, or if I'm writing, The Undead, which is a comic book here, which is also about vampires. Check it out because it's just so much fun to work with creative people and put this all together. Okay?
We actually have a question in the chat. I'm going to get to that. I got to ask Rick a question, and Joe, I was going to get to you about some of your past work, and then we're going to get back to Lucy.
Yes.
All right. So the question from the pan or the chat is: do you currently have any plans to continue with the characters past the Kickstarter?
So I actually have a good friend of mine named Bob, who's up in Maine. And I've always wanted to work with him, like always. Like I've been trying to find a project to do with him for like forever. And Bob loves to draw werewolves. So I've been not necessarily continuing these characters directly from the book, but I want to do a werewolf book, and I want to do a werewolf book with Bob. Now, if you're listening, I'm hoping that I can find some kind of hook that Bob will really want to respond to. But right now we're trading drawings and sketches back and forth and getting each other kind of interested in. Right now I have my werewolf sketches that I'm sending him, and he's really liking those. And hopefully we can coalesce around that and find a project that we can develop, the two of us. But he's somebody that I really want to work with.
Now, my question, because as you can tell, I've been researching on my phone, Rick. So something popped up, and I'm hoping this is you. Okay. So did you create and retain the rights to a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle character with Eastman and Laird?
So this is kind of a.
Well, no, I mean you gotta get personal or anything about it. I mean,
no. Something that's like not like understood too well. But basically, Eastman and Laird, 2 guys sitting around doing sketches and eating pizza, drinking beer, watching kung fu movies around the TV. Came up with the idea for Ninja Turtles and ended up thinking that was kind of great. They drew the comic. So it was a comic first, before it was toys, before it was movies, before it was pajamas and lunchboxes and everything that comes next. They actually had the #1 toy for 10 years in a row. They beat out G.I. Joe. The longest running #1 toy was 7 years. They had it for 10 years. And they've never fallen out of the top 10. They've always been in the top 10 for toys ever since they came out. Now, this is just 2 guys that borrowed a couple of grand, not even, like now you have Kickstarters and stuff, but they borrowed a couple of grand, and they put out Ninja Turtles, and it was a huge success, and they kept printing it and actually became a success as a comic. And they never wanted to be publishers. they wanted to draw comics, but they didn't want to be publishers, and they found themselves in a spot where they became publishers. And so before too long, they actually had like a little studio system where they had artists come in to their offices and work with them, including like Michael Dooney, Jim Lawson, Eric Talbot, Steve Levine, Ryan Brown, and a few other, Dan Berger. And I don't remember all the names, but those are the key guys.
Yeah.
And I happen to know Eric Talbot from school, and not that well. I knew him by sight. He's a big, tall, skinny guy with long hair and liked to play guitar and drive a pickup truck, and was a fun guy. But I ran into Eric at different comic shows, and eventually Eric was just like, "Hey, what do you got tucked under your arm?" I had some artwork. And Eric said, "Hey, this looks good. Kevin should see this." Kevin is one of the creators, and he walked over and tapped Kevin on the shoulder, said, "Hey, you should meet this guy." I got in front of this huge line of people. He just walked me right up to the front. And 5 minutes later, I came out with an assignment.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea what I was going to work on. They just said, "Hey, if you need money, send us some pages." It was pretty awesome. Now, they had those studio guys, and then what they did was they had some outside freelance people to help out the studio guys, and I was one of those outside freelance people. And even at one point, they might have considered having me come in and work in their studios. Not sure. That never gelled. I was working with them right around the time just before the first movie came out. Was when I first got introduced to them and first started doing stories for them. And I had a real problem. I had a tremendous problem. I walked out with an assignment, and I didn't know all the names of the turtles.
Ooh.
Now, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to picture now. Like, oh well, it's Raphael, Leonardo, Donatello, and well, that's three. There's got to be a fourth one. I didn't know all the names. I didn't know all the weapons. But my brother, who does all the weird stuff, knew, and so I called him up. I said, "Oh, you got to help me out." And I kind of instinctively knew that I couldn't draw and write, especially write all the characters and have them sound like the characters. I'm like, if I have a big ensemble cast and I'm trying to make them all sound like those characters and I don't know those characters, I'm going to mess it up really badly. So I focused on one character. I focused on Raphael because I liked that character. And I said, well, Raphael's got to have somebody to talk to. So I created a brand new character out of thin air to have Raphael talk to. And I basically created this whole scenario where he had a sparring partner. So I don't know if anybody has brothers, but if you fight with your brothers long enough, you know how to push the buttons, and that can be a problem. So Raphael wanted to go and fight with somebody else to keep sharp. He didn't know the moves of that other person, and that would keep him guessing. And so we had this sparring partner, which was outside of the Ninja Turtles. So I actually created this character, and in a classy move, I pushed to have copyright retained in my paperwork. And so I was one of two artists, the other one being Rick Veach, who actually has some copyright characters that they created for Turtles that I actually still own and use. So I just finished a story, which is at press right now for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where I use this character. And her name is Lucindra, which is which is a combination of Lucille and it's a combination of two names. So it's that's how I got Lucindra, and she's the sparring partner, and she's totally different than the Turtles, and so there's the conflict right there. And she also has a brother, so they can have parallel narratives and stuff. which was kind of what I was going for. So that Raph could have a problem with his brothers, and she also has a brother, so they can kind of have these parallel narratives.
That's one of the reasons I like working with Rick is he has this creative edge to him where he just wants to
and the hand gestures.
So when I saw Joe's original artwork on some of the comics that he had done, especially the Mickey Mantle book, which I got signed from him at a show, and I was a big Mickey Mantle fan, I said, the guy really knows how to draw comic books and knows how to draw characters. So, as Rick just explained, creating a new character, Joe works on his own character. Both of these guys, along with the rest of the team, have brought my characters to life. And Lucy, who is sitting over here very patiently, waiting for sponsors. A little die up in the background. You should be holding up cue cards, vote now, spend money now. There's an opportunity that if this all goes well, she may not be returning to the cemetery after this book. She may be going off and doing her own little adventure. And that's part of the plan. So, as these guys create theirs and they've created mine, and as Lucy has created her character, I asked her to make her own, Lucy come to life. I'm just thrilled that it's all going to work together, in this book. And again, someone has to go right out there and check out, all in there. This is our character, Lucy. Okay, and she's carving some pumpkins. Okay, and I think it's all really great. Keith Williams, who has done Marvel and DC comics, he drew this cover for us and did some of the interior, sketches for us. It's a great team with a lot of great artwork. Matter of fact, as I said, here's another one of, Keith's, pages. And all of this is available by joining the Kickstarter and looking at the sponsorship levels and helping us make this book bigger and better than we can imagine. So that's my whole thing. Is I'm so pleased.
Well, a couple of things I want to point out to Rick because we're talking about turtles. A little fun fact for me. I do a weekly show called Tony's Comic Spotlight, where every week I take a book and I spotlight a particular comic. And I actually did one for the first issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a while back. So the stuff when you was talking about getting a loan and everything, I was familiar with that because I mentioned that. Another fun fact is Kevin's in Memphis right now at a con that I wanted to go to, but I didn't have the money. And it worked out because now I'm with you fine folks. And Steve Levine's going to be a guest at that con I mentioned during backstage.
So I run into those guys on occasion. I actually saw Kevin last when I was in Los Angeles. I went to a comic show out there, and he was out there. And the strange thing is, because life is strange, Peter and Kevin, who were the co-creators, and they ran it, and I said they didn't really want to be publishers, and then they become publishers. They weren't necessarily interested in making toys, but they loved toys, and then they became the biggest toy makers on the planet, et cetera, with animation and everything else. They wanted to sell the company, and then eventually they sold the company. So now I think that Viacom owns it. One of those big, there's Disney and there's Viacom, and a few of these big whale type companies. Viacom has licensed out the comic making for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to IDW, which is in, I think they're located in San Diego, but not sure if it's San Diego or Washington State, but they're out there on the West Coast. Well, Kevin now lives in San Diego. So he's no longer associated with the property, no longer owns it. Viacom owns it. But he works for IDW, working on his own property that he created. So it's come full circle where now he's just an employee for his own property. It's really kind of, it's kind of bizarre. kind of neat.
I was going to say, and Rick, I spotlighted your comment here that Lucy would definitely return to the cemetery if only get undead helpers. That was my last thing I was going to point out. I volunteer myself to be slaughtered by Lucy.
Okay.
Right, we'll talk to Lucy. Okay, she has her place. Yes, so get ready for Hell-O-Ween coming up. Wonderful holiday that we all share. And I just hope everybody can take a look at the Kickstarter and see what they can do about sponsoring, looking at the great artwork. You've met some of the creators in person now, which is really great. And you've met the Mistress of the Deep Dark, Lucy, who we may be seeing a lot more of, based upon whatever happened with this book. So, Tony, I appreciate everything you're doing to have us on board.
Thank you.
And I appreciate, any of you fans out there that are interested in horror comics as much as I am, having grown up on it. You can see my memorabilia in the back over here. Big horror fan. Watched the Hammer movies, watched the Wolfman movie, Rick, many, many times. Love Lon Chaney. Joe Orstack did a vampire book recently, and I loved his work. And we're all working together, which is just so cool. Like I said, I can't draw a circle, but I can sort of write some interesting things. And, with creative people as I have on board here, it's all coming to life, or shall I say death. So, please, join us for a look-see at Hell-O-Ween. Okay.
Well, Joe, I was going to mention when I was looking up some stuff about you, I had seen the stuff, your work on Dreamers and with the Undead and was it Black Man, White Man?
Yes.
And I was like, I got to buy this stuff. Every story was interesting to me. I was like, and the novels as well. I'm going to have to pick up some of Joe's stuff.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. And a quick short story. My wife and I were at a wedding not too long ago, and we were sitting at one of the head tables because we knew the family. And it was decided everybody was going to introduce themselves. So someone said, "Hi, I work over at ABC Company." And, "Oh, hi, I'm a banker." Or next to me was the priest that did the ceremony. And he goes, "Hi, I'm the priest, blah, blah, blah." And then it came to me, and, "What do you do?" And I said, "I kill people." And the priest sat back in the chair, and everybody looked at me, and I go, "In my books." Okay. That's my book. But the fascinating thing, if you check out my background, I also do a book, a children's book called Dreamer. And the reason I do that is I have grandchildren now, and they can't read my horror stuff. Maybe when they grow up, or maybe they sneak the peek. But Dreamer is really interesting, wonderful, heartfelt story about a young boy, make it quick, who visits his younger brother in a children's hospital because he's disabled. A fire breaks out. He rescues his brother, rescues a couple other kids. Unfortunately, gets trapped in the fire. The only way to save his life is they put him in an induced coma. And now in the coma, he travels into the dreams of other children and helps them overcome their disabilities, their handicaps, and find the true heroes in themselves. So it's won a couple of awards. It's a very nice, story. Ken Wheat, who's art directing and also drawing, a story in this book, through the art there. Do check it out. There's some really wonderful, stories for kids of all ages. And in between my killing people, I also save people. That's my story.
Well, let's go back to the Mistress of the Dark Deep. Miss Lucy, what did you do to inspire people like Elvira?
I love you so much, Tony. Nothing.
Nothing.
I have a lot of fun in the cemetery.
There's a lot of fun in cemeteries. I was gonna say, just ask Howard Mackey.
Who's Howard Mackey?
He was the guy
I know.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Yes, Ghost Rider guy. Yeah.
Lucy, I see you got some new dental work done. It looks real good. They sharpen up your fangs a little bit here.
They do, and they cut my tongue so bad.
Well, you get a taste of blood, you know. That's how it all works, doesn't it? Okay, good. All right. One of these fangs look great. Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you. I'm surprised it lasted this long, actually.
I was going to say, I'm going to be a little corny and say you look fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, you guys look fantastic. Yes.
So let me ask Lucy, what drew you to this project?
I say Lucy with all her mischief and fun. I mean, I've always been drawn to villains and you know, the naughty character. I think she's a fun character to play.
She has a dark side.
I'm sensing that Lucy likes to play characters that are a little naughty.
Lucy
or Stephanie.
Madam Blaster.
Madam Blaster.
Joe, show your pinup of her again. Okay, pinup of Lucy. Oh yeah, she's naughty, naughty and nice.
Can I
gotta buy that.
Can I ask how you came up with your outfit and your hair? Like, how did you figure out what was going to be the most fun combo?
Thank you so much, Rick, for that. I looked at the pictures that Joe had supplied me. I believe it was Major Nigel Carrington's work or Keith Williams' work. Who was it?
Nigel was the one doing the vampires, I think.
Okay. And I just went with her, and she had so much hair. Rick, I had to get 2 wigs for her. You know, she's a two-wigger.
Two-wigger.
Two-wigger. Like Lady Death. Two-wigger. Okay? I'm sorry. It needs 2 wigs because there's so much hair.
This is a picture of Lucy in one of the graveyards. So do check it out on the Kickstarter. It's going to be one of our covers, along with several other things that we have planned for Lucy. And she's great. She's absolutely great.
Thank you.
To quote RoboCop, I'd buy that for $1.
Oh. Well, this has been fun. I don't know how much time everybody has here. I know Lucy may have to get back to do some of her haunting. I know Joe and
getting dark here.
Yeah, I just I twisted their arms at the last minute to join the show, and I do appreciate that very much. And you know, I certainly appreciate everybody listening in and hearing our story. And Tony, whatever you can do with the show and promotions of it, I certainly want to cross promote your show too, for other fans to listen to in the future. And I think that's one of the key things maybe you've all picked up tonight. If you go to a comic convention, go and enjoy it, but at the same time, meet people, find people that have your own, same life. All of us here, we've talked about some of the old werewolf movies and some of the old Dracula movies. We all knew that stuff. And when you find those type of people that like the same type of things you like, that is just so much fun to intersect, get together, and create something. For all you would-be comic fans that maybe want to write your own comic, I didn't write mine until I was 67. Do it. Just find the people to work with you. And for you artists out there that have some, great artwork, show it to people. Now that you've, seen Rick and Joe on the camera here, check out their websites. Look at some of their work. And I'm not going to say anything other than there may be some email address there if you want to, chat with them, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is how the whole process works. It's just a fun process. There's a lot of great comics out there. I grew up reading comic books, and I'll continue to read comic books because they're fun. And doing this project, working with, Lucy, Joe, Rick, Ken, Nigel, Keith, Rob, the other members of the team who couldn't join us. I'm so happy, and I can't wait to get the book out. It will be out in October. So do check, the Kickstarter. You'll know more about it. Remember, you got to write in HELL-O-Ween. You'll get to it real quick. Become a sponsor. Check out our website. You know, there might be some things that you want to buy personally from Rick, from Joe, and some from the other people. Lucy's going to have a calendar available. We're working on that. We're still shooting some pictures in the graveyard at night. Okay. And remember, she has to go back to the deep dark before dawn. So, you know, if you want to do any hunting on Kickstarter, do it, you know, pretty quick. So that might give Lucy a little bit of an umbrella to walk around with in the daylight. So, Tony, you know, I don't know what else to say, but I've had a fun time. And I can't wait to start drinking some of Dracula's blood myself, and maybe a glass of wine in a few minutes. And
that was awesome.
Enjoying the evening. And Rick and Joe, I thank you for joining me tonight. You know, this is great.
Well, I was gonna say I keep forgetting to mention it, but I actually have the link to the Kickstarter in the description box of this video, so you can click on that link to go to the Kickstarter.
Great.
Yay!
And normally this is where I would, what we call it, go around the horn and talk about what everybody's doing. But so, Stephanie, what you got coming up? Or excuse me, Lucy, what you got coming up?
I got nothing but like wandering around in the graveyard tonight, you know, in the cemetery, looking around for you know, people wandering around. Naive.
Guys, I know y'all's number one thing is getting this Kickstarter going. I hope everything works out and y'all get this thing funded. We get the book out. I'm looking forward to reading it. I love reading good horror movies or good horror comics.
Well, this has some twists in it. Let me tell you. You may think everything is what you think it is, but when you get to the last page, I always do that in my books and in my comic books. There's always a twist. So, you know, as I will say, pleasant nightmares to everybody. Because this is what the book will bring.
And I had a blast. I hope I did satisfactory to everyone. I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out, and anybody watching this on the replay. Thank you for watching this. I want to point out a couple things that's not related to this, but in October, the weekend October 22nd, Rob and the guys are doing the Comics Curing Cancer event where they go for 3 days and they just basically do a benefit. All the proceeds go to fight cancer, which is pretty cool. I believe, what was it? Friday and Saturday, they're doing they take donations, and then on Sunday, they do a big auction, and there's a lot of stuff donated to that. I'm donating a clock that I made, and so check that out. And also, I wanted to point out another thing. One of our fellow YouTubers, her name is Jen from Comics Will Break Her Heart. They're doing a GoFundMe for her because she has cancer, and all the money from that is going to benefit her, you know, paying her bills and just trying to live her life. And I'm going to put a link to that as well. It's for Keep Jen Reading. So we should keep her in our prayers. And that's all I've got. I've got another comic spotlight coming out next Thursday. It is, I got to remember because I was so far ahead. I don't remember. I believe, it is Something is Killing the Children, issue number 1. I'm a big fan of Something is Killing the Children. But anyway, guys and lady, thank y'all for hanging out. Thanks for everybody hanging out in the chat. And I guess we will end this.
Whoops, here we go.
And there you are. And Tony froze. Tony's dead.
Tony froze in the spotlight. We'll just take this opportunity to thank Tony for having us, Joe and Joe, and Stephanie, Lucy. It's been a great pleasure on my part to see everybody. Hopefully we can do some horror project again soon.
That would be great.
This was like a lot of great fun. This was a lot of great fun.
Yes,
thanks,
for sure.
Tony. You're frozen again. You came back for life for a moment, but Tony's gone. Thanks, everybody. Go have a drink on me.
So nice to meet you, Rick and Joe. So nice to meet you.
Bye.
Take care. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.
I'll be in touch. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye, Sal.
Bye.
Bye.